Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In this video we're going to take a close look at this Steam Deck Mini, also called the A6, from our friends from China. It's a very interesting concept and I've been waiting for this to arrive. The reason is because I've been ordering it a couple of times and every single time it was cancelled or was something wrong. Man, it was freaking frustrating. But I can tell you, it was absolutely worth the wait when it comes to the overall design. This thing looks very cute and it's also very comfortable, and this has some to do just with the form factor. They absolutely nailed it when it comes to this particular product. It's absolutely great when you're holding it in your hands, having the dual analog stick and then the switch. The D-pad is in kind of strange situation. It even comes with the plastic on top, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, the feel, it's interesting. I can tell you that. It has a necessary touch to it. Over here we're having the M button, select, start. The A, B, X, Y also feel very comfortable and very nice. On top we're finding the on and off switch over here. By holding it while powering on the device itself. And you can just actually see that it also comes with a decent display. But later on we're going to give you a quick look. Then SD card, we're having two USB connections, one for the OTG port and a volume control. What is interesting when you're looking at the shoulder buttons and the trigger, you can just see how great they combined and overlapping. In other words, if you're going to be holding this, it feels kind of nice, but it's not actually a trigger button, but all of them have a micro switch underneath. So that's actually the thing that we're getting when it comes to the device. Another cool feature, I think the best is going to be shown when shutting all of the lights off, or most of them in the studio. You can just see the light up feature of this device. That is really cool. So in the package itself it comes with a screen protector. They didn't implement it on the device. Ooh, feels like a very fancy box. And underneath we're finding not an overall, that's a great explanation how the system works. I'm also calling this the toilet paper manuals, with some basic explanation how you need to navigate through the menu and what you can actually play with it, and a very nice long USB-C cable. But before we go any further, let's remove this piece of plastic, or the screen protector. Yeah, that's the thing I sometimes forget doing, because I'm not really bothered by these things. But it still makes it very glossy. Yep. But how about the menu itself and how everything works? So this is more of, let's say, a plug and play device, or a device you can just use without doing all kind of tinkering with Android. On the back end it is running on some kind of Android software operating system, but you can just see here we can very easily search for the games. You know, everything has been configured to a certain point that it works fairly easy. And if you don't want to, let's say, mess around with like Bottleshare and all the craziness, this can be maybe an interesting way to play. So you can just see, you can just start up and just boot up like that. It works very fast and very easy. Pressing the M will give you the special menu. You can make a quick load, quick save, reboot, and having all kinds of different options. Over here we're having all kinds of things, like having a favorite list, and history, or what kind of games you actually played. And in here we have the settings, where we can adjust the brightness. The brightness of the device goes very, let's say, very high and looks kind of good. Factory reset, always be very careful with those things. Sometimes it will even format everything. But we have all kinds of different systems that we can play. They include PlayStation Portable by N64, but it's also with these low power devices a problem. So clicking on a platform, you can see that we're getting all kinds of, let's say, games, or at least in preview, and that's it. So let's play some games and let's see what we're actually getting when it comes to the overall emulation performance. So let's start off with some NES. The unfortunate thing is we have some widescreen shenanigans going on, and so far I know there's no way of switching it out. That's kind of a little bit of a downside. But when you're looking at it, they're using a kind of a filter. It doesn't look that pixelated. The D-pad's quite awful to play with. I do have struggles navigating. Pressing left or right, that's not a problem, but what I do have a problem with when it comes to, let's say, overall, let's say, getting in different movements going on. But all the sound effects are here. Everything seems to be looking just great. The D-pad and the analog stick are both configured to this, so that seems to be working just fine. Okay, moving to the Super NES. So far, so good. Also here, I do have the idea that I have implemented this filter. So the audio quality of this thing is quite good. The weird thing is that the audio speakers are on the back of the device, and still the overall experience is quite good. and overall great emulation performance. Absolutely awesome. So again, let's try the D-pad. It's such a weird D-pad. Absolutely very strange D-pad. But out of the box, this works quite well. So moving on to some N64, this is absolutely like a mixed performance. Trying out like one of those line titles, but you can see glitching, you can just hear that it struggles. And that's what's going to be with the N64 part. It's not going to be an overall great experience. Where some of the games are playable. I always keep wondering why they're going to be adding this. We will always see that the favorite games for you and me to play, they won't run at all or have a lot of problems. But what you can just see with the Lamborghini racing, it seems to be working just fine. Also when you go into the main menu, there is no, let's say, extra options in here. I do notice a lot of difference in the sound levels, so let's lower the volume over here. It's a great indication you can see that runs actually on Android. Also here they implemented the weird filter. Everything does look kind of smooth. But the main problem we're having is widescreen shenanigans. Always like a little bit of a bummer. Where some of the budget devices automatically go to the normal aspect ratio. With this they completely mess it up. But the emulation itself seems to be working just fine. I'm just surprised again how well the sound of this, let's say, handheld. The two speakers at the back, or at least I think there are two speakers on there, so far I can see, they sound absolutely amazing. I just realized, I was adjusting the volume again, but do you know what they completely messed up? Or this is more like a personal thing. When you just normally want to like increase the volume, you're going to be pressing right? But you can see it's just inverted. That is so weird. That's so freaking annoying. So I'm not a big fan of the D-pad at all. Simply because of the way how it's shaped, but also how it feels and reacts. I'm gonna say that. When playing just a two-dimensional adventure game, well, it's fine. I do show here minor hiccups, if I need to be very nitpicky about this. Widescreen shenanigans with a filter. Clearly there's a filter on there. I wish you can just adjust the aspect ratio, but also if you can remove the filter if you don't want to have that at all. Whoa, man, this sounds actually that my speaker is dying off. That is not like sounding like it should be. Also here they implement the filter, I can just see it. Oh yeah, the sound is absolutely off. I did hear that weird sound when it comes to, let's say, the audio itself. So the audio is completely messed up. Yeah, it sounds completely messed up. It even sounds that my speaker is broken or something, but that is not the case because I just checked it out with a different game. Alright, and again, I need to adjust the volume. There's such a massive, let's say, difference between the games. Time for some beefcake and download, baby. Oh yeah. Okay, get rid of the button. The button configuration is also very strange. We're using X and A. Beefcake man is here. He's going to slap you in the face. Oh yeah. But also emulation performance of the name seems to be just fine. You'll just smack it on the ground. But of course, if you don't like the configuration of the buttons, you can always change it out. So that's a very positive thing. Okay, next. Let's move to some Neo Geo with the Breakers, one of my favorite games to play on here when it comes to fighting games. And the thing is, I just wanted to also see how the D-pad will respond for fighting games. Okay. Yeah, the major problem I'm having with this D-pad is that I need to get used to it. But also because you need to press it quite hard to get an input going on, you need to get used to this. So let's for fun see if I can even do a super move. Okay, nothing has been met to there. So when it comes to, let's say, the overall performance of playing fighting games with this is not this is not a great overall solution. Nah. Moving on with some Tekken. Let's see how this is actually playing and how does it look. There is no audio delay. That is a massive problem with a lot of these cheaper devices that have overall, let's say, bad emulation performance. But let's see how the overall gaming experience is.
Round 1, fight.
Okay. Oh, wait, that was the wrong button. Why do I get a feeling also here they messed it up? Yep. Okay, so when it comes to overall, let's say, some Tekken gaming with this is not going to be a problem whatsoever. So emulation performance is quite good, pressing the M. So with some of, let's say, the emulators we have the option to switch, let's say, CDs or disc swapping they call it, and you don't have that here. So that's going to be a problem if you have like a multiple disc game. Okay, so moving on with another PlayStation 1 game. I did notice that the games have music, so that is great. This is one of those games I've played so much. Twisted Metal 1 or 2 are, in my opinion, one of the best, like, say, driving shooting games. This is such a cool game. The PlayStation emulation is great. Okay, so the only thing I really need to get used to this thing is using the back buttons. Because of the small form factor of this device, it's not the most comfortable one. I personally have like a device that isn't slightly bigger, so it's going to be easier to, let's say, use the back buttons. But the configuration itself, it's quite nice. Yeah, I say that when it comes to playing on this, also with the D-pad, you need to, let's say, accelerate and just move around. This works great. So I'm not the biggest fan of, let's say, when it comes to fighting games, for driving games, etc. Well, it's quite good. So coming back with some PlayStation Portable testing, I can tell you again, like I've mentioned a couple of times, the audio on this thing is absolutely legendary. The way how this sounds. You know, I have some certain games like PlayStation 1, PlayStation Portable, you know, they have like amazing soundtracks. And there's where these, let's say, devices on emulation with good speakers come alive. Next up, let's see, we're getting into the gameplay, how the overall performance will be. I think it's going to be as expected that we're having like overall, let's say, okay, emulation. When you're going to be playing PlayStation Portable on this, I think that's kind of cool, because the screen itself is maybe not the perfect resolution, but it really like benefits from like the PlayStation Portable emulation, because the display itself looks absolutely great, and then in combination with this. So if you had like a very powerful CPU in this thing, it would be absolutely great. Pressing the M button will give you the same menu, so where this thing is running on PPSSPP, you cannot get into it. What we can try is see what happens if you're going to be pressing the joystick, but everything has been disabled when it comes to that. So that's quite unfortunate. So let's move on into the PlayStation Portable, but with just basic two-dimensional games. So if they configured everything, this should be no problem whatsoever. Now let's see if we can get into it. Oh man, the controls are so messed up. Okay, need to press X over here. There we go. Yeah, no problem whatsoever here. No idea where the square is. Oh, there he is. But you can just see that these games run great. So where PlayStation Portable and these lower, let's say, devices, also cheaper devices, are not overall perfect emulation, it's a lot of fun. If you're having those big two-dimensional games, you do see some frames down, frame drops down there. Oh man, no. Oh man, I've played it on my iPad, on my telephone. I love these basic games. You see the stuttering going over there. Woo-hoo. Ah, that was cheap. I'm missing the touch. The overall construction is quite basic when it comes to the device itself. So you can just see the two speakers at the back. They're tiny, but they are absolutely sounding amazing and giving this absolutely overall great gaming, let's say, experience when it comes to the audio. The battery can be replaced, so that is absolutely a plus side. So if you're just going to be removing the battery, man, they used a lot of double-sided tape, so it's very difficult to remove this and put it back in the original position. So I'm just going to be leaving it as is. You can remove it, and that's a very positive thing. So if you want to replace it, most of the time there's a code on these batteries where you can just find a manufacturer selling this with a particular connection, and you can just replace it fairly easy. So what's kind of cool to showcase is how they actually like made the trigger buttons, or trigger buttons, like the movement itself. You can see there's a tiny spring over here, to basically giving the tension of the button itself, and it's going to be in place or hold in place on the left side, and over here it's going to be locked in the right side. And that's actually how the back buttons will work. And the other ones are directly on the main board, and on the main board you will find micro switches. So with the many different devices from China, this is a very interesting contender. It's absolutely like not a superior device like the Embernix, but this is just a very interesting plug and play, let's say, device that you can get. Yep, this is something you should pick up. You should decide for yourself, because the competition is absolutely overwhelming when it comes to these devices. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing, hit the little bell, and it will be great to see you in the next video.